Hello everyone and welcome to our lecture. So today we are going to discuss another topic of human resource management, that is interview. How you are going to or how you are supposed to conduct interviews. So before starting, will be sharing a little recap that what we have covered in our previous lectures or videos. First of all, what is human resource management? We have discussed, we have already gone through all the details of what is human resource management, why we are supposed or what is the requirement of HR, why we need HR departments in any organization. Then we have discussed few points regarding strategic human resource management. What is the difference between HR and SHRM? That is strategic human resource management. Then we have thoroughly gone through job analysis, that why job analysis need to be conducted and made. Then we talked about HR planning and recruitment, that is recruiting. Then in our previous lecture, we discussed about testing and selection. So a little bit further now in this, after your selection, the candidates, the potential applicants, those who have been shortlisted through all those procedures, now this is a stage that what type of interviews any organizations can conduct for their testing or for the selection criteria. Okay. So to start with, by the end of this chapter, we will be covering all these topics, that is types of selection interviews, then 6 factors that affect the usefulness of interviews. Then we will be covering what are like some guidelines for how to make your interview more effective. Last but not the least, how to interview a job candidate, like from the employee perspective as well. We'll discuss few of the tips and points. Okay. So these were our objectives. Now we will be discussing that what is an interview. First of all, the word interview. But like what comes to your mind when you hear the word interview? Basically, interview में अगर हम बात करें interview का मतलब ही समझ आता है अच्छा यार किसी कोई है maybe दो या two individuals, just like अगर मैं एक बात करूँ layman की, there may be two individuals who would be talking, who would be chatting, who would be maybe very in a very formal अगर मैं कहूँ connotation, they will be asking questions. What questions? To obtain different information. For example, if I have done particular, like for example, I am applying for a position, मैं एक intern की position पे apply कर रहा हूँ, तो obviously my questions would be regarding that position. My education may be relevant, may not be relevant. If I'm a fresh grad, definitely I don't have any experience. If अगर मैं experienced हूँ, शायद कोई और internship पहले कहीं की हुई है, तो that experience can be mentioned. तो बेसिकली इंटरव्यू होता क्या है, अगर मैं इसको बाय डेफिनेशन देखूं तो इट्स इंफॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम अ पर्सन थ्रू ओरल रिस्पॉन्सेज टू ओरल इंक्वायरी. मैंने ओरल किसी से कुछ पूछा, उसने मुझे ओरली रिस्पॉन्स दिया, दैट्स नॉट इन रिटन, दैट्स इंटरव्यू. So this is basically the bookish definition of an interview. Then we have different types of interviews, in which we have selection interview, appraisal, exit interviews, and different formats are there, structured, unstructured. We'll discuss one by one in detail that what are these, how we are going to cover this topic of interview. So let's start with our first type, that is selection interview. Now the word selection, the selection means that we are going to select someone. How the selection can be made. So number one, it's basically how you are going to predict your future job performance on the basis of applicants' oral responses to your oral inquiries. For example, a person comes in, person walks into your room, he was called for an interview, he sat on the chair, you ask him, okay, sit down, he introduced himself, then you ask him different questions related to that particular position. जिसमें मैंने अगर पहले एग्जांपल दिया इंटर्न हायर कर रहे हो, तो इंटर्न के रिलेटेड अगर मार्केटिंग इंटर्न है, तो वैसे इंटर्न को हरा करो, किसी भी डिपार्टमेंट में एचआर का इंटर्न है या सप्लाई चेन का, व्हाटसोएवर पोजीशन यू आर ऑफरिंग, ये डिपार्टमेंट यू आर थिंकिंग कि मैं इस डिपार्टमेंट प्लेस करूंगा, तो आपसे अगर कुछ जनरल इन्फॉर्मेशन लगता है, अच्छा क्या पढ़ा रहा है, क्या किया हुआ है, एक्सपोजर है, पहले कोई को करियर एक्टिविटीज में क्या कहाँ पार्टिसिपेट किया हुआ है, क्या क्या आपकी सीरीज को जो चीजें अचीवमेंट्स में है, मे बी यू कैन आस्क दोस थिंग्स. सो एवरीथिंग वुड बी ओरली. उसकी भी ओरल रिस्पॉन्सेज होंगे, आपके भी डेफिनेटली क्वेश्चंस ओरल हैं. सो ऑल दिस इज लाइक सिलेक्शन इंटरव्यू. दिस इज लाइक द मोस्ट जो हमारा एक जनरल या जेनेरिक फॉर्मेट में होता है. दिस इज वन काइंड ऑफ दैट इंटरव्यू, दैट्स कॉल्ड सिलेक्शन. Number second is appraisal interview. Now, appraisal is something that's been this is a different type of interview. The employee is working with you maybe down the lane 6 months or 1 year, depends on the organization. कुछ लोग इसको monthly basis पे भी कुछ maybe 6 months के बाद कुछ yearly basis पे they conduct this appraisal. So they discuss your performance, like what type of performance you are having, what are like the ins and outs, क्या आपके अंदर personality में आपकी लेकर आपकी working जो आप काम कर रहे हो, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. So जो आपका immediate boss होता है जिसको हम line manager भी कहते हैं in terms of management या HR में, तो वो आपको बताता है कि अच्छा this is the things you need to do. इन चीज़ों पे फोकस करो, इन चीज़ों पे काम करो. Maybe it could be related to your education, maybe your skills, maybe your like the way you are working. So again, these are something employee आपके साथ share करता है कि आपकी इस दफा की rating कैसी है, but that needs to be discussed. कभी भी appraisal अगर somebody is not telling you and just marking you, that's not ethical. So one should keep in mind कि अगर एक appraisal के वक्त आप अपने interview होने चाहिए, so it gives an employee an idea as well कि next time अगर मैं ये काम करूँगा तो मुझे promotion मिलेगी या I will be getting incentives या bonus, whatsoever is the company policy, but that should be mentioned to the employee as well. Then comes another form of interview, that's exit interview. Now, the word exit, like that's like you are leaving the organization. That is another form जब organization को छोड़ के जा रहे हैं, whatever the reasons and consequences were there, but you need to take an interview. This is like basically the task of HR department. जब interview लो उनसे पूछो कि यार आप क्या rules है, क्या responsibilities है, आपने क्या किया है, क्यों आप छोड़ के जा रहे हो. Maybe there were some अगर उसके कोई maybe बुरा हुआ हो, कोई hardships हो, या maybe whatever like their concerns are, either good feelings or bad feelings. They can inform the management, yeah, this is the way, this is me, this is the thing I am leaving, or I am going for better prospects, या मुझे career में advancement हो रही, whatsoever. But again, you need to ask that particular individual that what went wrong. Even he can mention that the person who is going, आप उससे पूछ सकते हैं क्या अच्छा था, ताकि that would be a motivating factor for the rest of the employees कि अगर हम ये चीज़ पे focus करेंगे तो हमारे बाकी employees नहीं छोड़ के जाएंगे. So again, you need to see that what type of questions you need to ask that employee when he or she is leaving any organization or firm. Then there are different formats. जैसे हमने पहले बात की types के formats different होते हैं. Two formats are basically being followed. Number one is structured and second one is unstructured. So first of all, if I talk about unstructured interview, unstructured में कोई भी चीज़ sequence में नहीं होती. There is no मतलब planned or structured question written in front of the interviewer. Interview में, for example, आपने introduce आपने introduce करवाया. From that thing, whatever comes to his mind, वो अपने कोई चीज़ pick की, उस question से आप सब कुछ pick किया, he start asking you the next question. So that's how the whole conversation goes on. Maybe something is written on the CV, maybe something you have mentioned. So that's how the question is being taken, and उस response के आपके response के next question is being asked. So this is not structured way of doing. It's the unstructured way. The structured way is more into like a sequence of questions होती हैं. उसको आप जो भी question आप, for example, this is the first question I asked you, this is the second, then third, and then your evaluation or ratings can be done based on those questions. This is more structured. अच्छा, हर दोनों के अपने फायदे, both have some advantages and disadvantages. Talk about advantages, so definitely structured में you have like आपको पता है कि आप पूछना next question क्या है. Maybe flow of questions from all the candidates could be same. Otherwise questions different होने के तो different questions आप पूछोगे. Again, different जगहों पे आप different patterns है with this structure or format आप different कर सकते हो. One thing more in this, like unstructured, kabhi-kabhar, they are considered as a journal conversation. Some organizations don't want to go with this unstructured format because they want it to be very much organized or very much like इसको structured या बहुत formal रखना चाहती हैं, तो they go with the structured sequence of questions. Okay, then what type of content you need to add into your interview? We are all talking about from the HR perspective, like now you are considering or you are thinking yourself, like imagine yourself that you are an HR manager, HR executive or employee whatsoever. Now, while designing the question, like what type of question I need to ask to the interviewee, मुझे applicant से किस किस्म के questions पूछने, क्या questions होंगे ताकि वो सारी चीजें उसमें cover up हो जाएगी. So you need to design some content as well. So for that designing, this is one of the things that is situational interview. Now, what is situational interview? This is basically a series of job-related questions that focus on how the candidate would behave in a given situation. अब this statement definitely would say कि आपने एक कोई situation लेनी. Let's for example, if I am hiring a person for my maybe a supervisor role, so I would ask that supervisor or person if a person is coming late, is coming late on daily basis. So how would you react or what will be your reaction? So he will be coming late from last 3 days or he's leaving early. So this is some situation I'm giving to that person. Different situations can be given depending on the nature of the job, depending on the nature of the that possession. At his department, particularly they do maybe marketing related to marketing, example, or maybe any situation that you want to create that individual. The second part of the content is behavior interview. This is another type of questions you can ask that will be related and focused towards your behavior. Now, what is behavior? Like we all know, अगर हम psychological term में psychology से related देखें, तो behavior is something कि individual कैसा behavior show कर रहा है किसी भी जगह पे, किसी भी माहौल में, environment में. So definitely when you are sitting in an interview, definitely आपका जो behavior है वो बहुत ज़्यादा maybe एक बहुत ज़्यादा confined होगा या it would be more formal or appropriate. So again, you need to judge that. For example, you give that example. Suppose that this happens. So what you would do, or think of a time, or imagine that this is happening. So you are trying to create some example or give them. कि अगर ऐसा scenario होगा या ऐसा कुछ होगा ऐसी behavior को show करेगा. Well, let's start with something. Suppose you are faced with the following situation. So, so what you will do? So you try to give or see the behavioral responses that what type of things or he or she can mention. Also, so behavior में बहुत सी चीजें ये भी होती है कि आप sometimes you try to put that person हम आगे उसे discuss करेंगे आप उनके different उसको flavors like either it's coming through negative or positive what side he or she is mentioning more straight interview में भी डाल सकते हो. So again we'll discuss कि हम इसको combination of questions भी कर सकते हैं. So it depends on the position. Also, the another type is job related interview. This is basically आप जो वही questions पूछोगे जो आपको पता है जो आपके for example जो सामने मैंने job analysis की वीडियो बना के रखी है job description में मेरे पास है ये काम मुझे करवाने हैं. So all my questions will be relevant and will be uh, only will be bound with that. So okay, for example, if I'm going to hire an executive for any department, for example, in my department. So for that, I would be asking, okay, do you know how we have to manage that, how we have to maintain the database, how we have to go along with the people, other हम उनके कोई events कराने, how we are going to manage, how we are going to respond, what would be a strategy of something like if someone says you something bad, like जिस तरह वो वाली बात है कि आपको you need to create different person. Okay, what you know about this department. So again, you want to have a chabaki. Do you know what other organizations or people who are in similar industry or this field, what they are doing, what they are offering. So you need try to, or you can ask them what we are offering. Have you gone through our website or our maybe social media platforms? So you can have the idea that person is well known about the job or not. So this is another type of interview. Then we have stress interview as already I have mentioned that stress that put, you need to put the pressure on that candidate that how he or she is going to behave. For example, sometimes हम ऐसे straightforward या maybe some blunt questions पूछते हैं interviews में just to know कि वो कैसा बंदा है like what behavior he is going to show or either he is like maybe he becomes uh, अगर उसको थोड़ा सा ही is losing his temperament और वो तो बदतमीजी कर रहा है या whatsoever, so we need to evaluate कि अगर वो किस तरह उसका behavior है. So sometimes you also try to some बहुत से लोग ऐसे भी होते हैं कुछ person questions पूछते हैं just to put him into stress ताकि कैसा बंदा है hyper active तो नहीं है उसका tolerance level क्या है आपको अगर for example if it's a customer related job customer experience or call center में है so there are different type of people who are going to call you. The temperament different, the tone different, even language different, and maybe they are going to misbehave, they are going to abuse, or sometimes they are just going to like maybe say you so many things. So again, how you are going to bear that, how what type of temperament, what type of blow, tone, your pitch. So again, we try to see everything through this interview. This is stress interview. Another question, another type of interview is puzzle question. Like again, it depends on the job or in the position, but sometimes you do ask some questions related to like technical questions or something related to your particular, like for example, there are five people in the room. One goes out, like something logical वाले जो questions होते हैं. So what will be happening if there is blue and red and blue cannot be merged and blue can merge and green. It's about the colors. So again, it depends on what type of puzzle question you could like ask. Sometimes it could be related to your IQ as well. Okay, they can have a question related to your general knowledge or something. IQ, which is this is the length of the table. So what could be the general maybe कितना होगा? You can ask this type of question. Or okay, आगे अगर ऐसा weather है तो what can you predict? So again, they try to put your mind in something. So they can see कि अगर आप कोई pressure में डालते हैं तो either you would be able to solve that puzzle or not. That will be not relevant to that particular job, but that will be general question just to know कि आप किस तरह बिहेव करोगे, क्या आपके उसमें आंसर्स होंगे. एक्चुअली लाइक ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन जैसे होते हैं. ओके, नाउ वी हैव सम मोर. अगर मैं बात करूं, वी हैव पर्सनल इंटरव्यूज में अगर बहुत दफा एक वन ऑन वन इंटरव्यू हो रहा है तो दैट कुड बी अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड सीक्वेंशियल और स्ट्रक्चर्ड सीक्वेंशियल क्वेश्चंस हैं. नाउ अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड सीक्वेंशियल क्वेश्चन में जिसका हमने पहले बात की थी कि डिफरेंट क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं, इसमें कोई सीक्वेंस ऑफ क्वेश्चन नहीं है. लाइक देयर इज नथिंग सेट पैटर्न नहीं है. अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड एंड ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चन, व्हाटएवर कम्स टू देयर माइंड under that discussion they can ask you, they can ask my applicant. This is unstructured, but in a sequence. So for example, if I give you answer, this is like okay, fine, then another answer, another question, another answer, the whole chain goes like that. Structured में definitely, if I talk about, there are several people, like for example it's a panel interview or 2-3 people or 1 or 2 people are sitting. So you can have like आप उसमें किस तरह को रेट कर रहे हो, क्या कर रहे हो. It's better to have a standard form in that structured and उनके पास आपके पास सामने. For example, if I am asking someone, मैंने उसको पहले से एक पेपर पे evaluation sheet दी है. Evaluation sheet पे you can ask question related to maybe behavioral questions है, उसमें situation questions है, उसमें knowledge based questions job related भी हो सकते हैं, उसमें आपके education related questions भी हो सकते हैं. So any question that is relevant to that particular job, you can ask that question. So this is basically structured sequential interview. Another type of interview is panel interview. This is like most general, बहुत दफा one-on-one के अलावा panel interviews होते हैं. Panel interview usually 2 to 3 people are preferred, but again depend on the organization, depend on the position. If it's a high position, maybe there are more and lots of people are sitting. Like if I talk about the panel broad interview, yes, panel broad interview में even there are people like 13 people, 10 people, 5 or 8 people, even whole like if I talk about universities में तो उसमें different external value होती है, आपके departments होते हैं, आपके heads होते हैं, university के पूरे top management सारी होती है, HR के representatives होते हैं. So there are like 8-10 people who are sitting in a broad panel interview. So again depends on the position. Sometimes even in terms of like we talk about organization like government organization में again there are panel interviews जिसमें board of directors बैठे हुए हैं. जो पोजीशन है उसके लिहाज से the panel could be big or panel could be small. Another type of interview is called mass interview. Now, what is a mass interview? A panel interview several candidates simultaneously. This type of interview is basically conducted when you have a lot of candidates are going to the year. For example, you give a query, throw a question on the candidate, and whoever would like to respond, then they respond accordingly. So you are trying to evaluate कि आपको किस तरह का response, आप किस तरह behave कर रहे हो. जब बहुत ज़्यादा लोग होते हैं, उसमें they are evaluating different things. Basically, mass interview अगर हम करना चाहें तो different position के requirements होती है. For example, सेल्स की जॉब में या बेसिक जो जॉब्स में उसमें आप मेरे को आप सिनेरियो देते हैं या कोई सिचुएशन देते हैं, यू आस्क एवरीवन ओके व्हाट इज द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. सो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से यू कैन हैव द आइडिया कि उसका जो माइंड है या उसका जो माइंड ट्रैक है या उसका जो माइंड सेट है, व्हाट टाइप ऑफ पर्सन ही और शी इज, उसका थिंकिंग पैटर्न कैसा है. तो अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस यू कैन एवेलुएट. ओके, we have another type of interview that is computerized interview. Now, this is something that's been adopted by so many organizations now. In this, what actually the response is being done that, for example, you are shown maybe a audio or a visual or something written in front of you, and you are writing something in response to that. That could be written, that could be oral as well. For example, questions come in, मेरे सामने कोई questions आता है तो मैं उसका आंसर दे देती हूँ, तो this is something computerized selection हो जाती है. Okay, sometimes ऐसा भी होता है कि like you are having question in front of you in terms of written, and then they ask you something related to, okay, this is a thing you can write your answer. So in this again there are some pros and cons towards that as well. So इसमें ये होता है कि आपको बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लगता because you are writing your answers. So आपको अगर for example I have to have an interview of 50 people, so they are writing their answer, and that's also being recorded as well. This is one other thing कि applicants are more honest with computers while writing whatever comes to their mind they can write. Maybe sometimes इसमें interpersonal आपकी obviously आप judge नहीं कर पाते because they are being avoided. आप definitely कंप्यूटर से कर रहे हो तो आप इतना interpersonal आपके साथ नहीं है, one on one नहीं हो रहा या panel के through नहीं हो रहा. You are not evaluated on your communication and personal skills. Last but not the least, ज़्यादातर लोगों को ये this type of thing is not being like supported because this is something आप सिर्फ computerized अगर चीज़ों पे जाओगे. So some organizations if they have or they do this, they go with other multiple options as well. They don't just go with the computerized interviewing, they go with other types or other tools as well. Okay, now these are some of the factors that affect interviews. Maybe you have all gone through some interview. If not, then like there is a common perception that whenever you enter that room, whatever room, boardroom है, कोई conference room है, या room whatever like they have called upon interview, जब enter होते हो, there is a first impression. Like first impression maybe due to your body language, to your dressing, to your hairstyle, whatever you're carrying, whatever you're wearing, your confidence. That's has been like एक उसका कहीं ना कहीं impact होता है. That has an कहीं ना कहीं होता है. This is also called as snap judgment कि आप किसी को judge कर लेते हो. अगर मुझे वो उसका maybe physical उसकी characteristics हैं या किसी और वजह से I like that person or not. So again, this is being एक this could be wrong as well, this could be right as well. Again it depends. इसमें gender का भी हो जाता है, इसमें the way you are carrying yourself, your confidence, maybe something physique हो जाती है. Sometimes आपका body language और non verbal cues होते हैं आपके, वो भी बहुत impactful होते हैं. So again first impression is really very important, and also first impression means the very few first moments like जो आपके for example you go and you sit and then they ask you okay introduce yourself, and the way you started with all your that pitch, it all depends and it all has a lot of effect and impact on your interview. So it also affects sometimes as well. Another type of another factor that have like is negative biasness. Now what is negative? The word negative is like unfavorable information about it. For example, अगर आपने इंटरव्यू जो एप्लीकेंट अंदर आ रहा था इंटरव्यू के बारे में किसी ने कुछ कहा कर ये तो ऐसा है, अच्छा या तो मैं तो उसको पहले जानता था या तो इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में था, या ओ यार इसकी डिग्री पे तो ये इसका सीवी पे लिखा था, या ओ वो इसका तो जो maybe he is coming from this particular organization. So all these type of things becomes a negative bias for that individual because he's just about to be coming, तो उसका कोई ना कोई उसकी पर्सनालिटी का मे बी एजुकेशन मे बी पास्ट एक्सपीरियंसेस का तो बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट होता है उसके करंट का. सो दिस इज it for our like first part. We will be covering our second part and we'll be sharing with you. Thank you for watching and thank you for staying with us. Kindly subscribe to my channel as well for more videos. Take care, stay blessed, stay safe, and we will be coming back with more information on interview candidates. Take care.